Okay, obviously I want to talk about this Tennessee-Florida game, which is just going to the half now. Tennessee's up 17-14. He scored a touchdown basically at the end of the first half to take back the lead. They're up 17-14 over Florida. Been a great game so far, back and forth game. We'll talk more about that in a second. But Miami Hurricanes, what are you doing? Where are you? What is happening here? Miami's getting humiliated by Middle Tennessee State. Now it's 24-10 because Miami literally just scored. But it was 24-3, and it's almost halftime. 19 seconds to go. Miami, what are you doing? Miami Ducks. Tyler Van Dyke looks terrible. Well, let me say this. No, I haven't watched any of the game. What games am I watching? I've been watching Oregon. Well, I was watching Minnesota and Michigan State, but that appeared to be a blowout, so I turned it to Oregon, Washington State, Tennessee, Florida, Notre Dame, North Carolina. That's what I'm watching. So I haven't actually watched the Miami game. But I looked at the stats. Tyler Van Dyke, barely 50%, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Is it the receiver's fault again? I don't know. Now, I did watch Miami last week against Texas A&M, and their receivers couldn't catch a cold. I don't know what's going on today, but losing to Middle Tennessee State at halftime, unacceptable, 24-10, not good. What else is going on? The North Carolina Notre Dame game, pretty good, 24-14, Notre Dame on top. I know Notre Dame's got no offense. North Carolina's offense has been amazing. Look. No matter how bad your offense is, playing North Carolina will fix it. North Carolina's defense is the worst I've seen in a long, long time. It's Oklahoma level bad. I'm talking about the Oklahoma teams under Lincoln Riley level. That bad. They can't tackle. They're out of position. They don't know their assignments. They're not that talented. North Carolina's quarterback is amazing, Drake May, but we already knew that. He's been amazing all year. Notre Dame up 24-14 over North Carolina at halftime. Texas with a 10-point halftime lead over Texas Tech. 24-14. So we got some good games going on. Can we talk about the Clemson-Wake Forest game? What an amazing game. Look, unless you're a Clemson or a Wake Forest fan, if you're a Clemson fan, you're happy you won. Wake Forest fan, you're mad you lost. Maybe if you're a Clemson fan, you think you should have won by more. If you're not a Clemson or a Wake Forest fan and you just watched that game for entertainment purposes, what an unbelievable game. Back and forth game, up and down the field, goes to double overtime. Clemson ends up winning a thriller on the road at Wake Forest. Absolutely one of the best games of the season so far. A lot of people were wondering how come Clemson was only a 7 or a 7.5 point favorite in that game. Turns out Vegas knew what they were talking about here. What a great game, Clemson and Wake Forest. Already talked about Georgia shitting the bed today for 3.5 hours, which is exactly what they did against Kent State. An embarrassing performance, but I haven't seen Georgia play that bad in 4 years. 2019, I guess. 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 4 seasons worth. 2019, home game against South Carolina, which I believe also was a noon game. Jake Fromm comes out to 4 turnovers. Absolutely horrible. It reminded me of that today. Now, we lost that game in 2019 against South Carolina. Thank God at least we won this game. Hopefully, down the road, this will just be a footnote in Georgia's schedule. Oh, yeah, but remember when they struggled against Kent State. But it did not look good today. Did not look good at all. What else is going on? Let's look and see. Indiana and Cincinnati, 38-10. Okay, well, great. That's amazing. Oregon now losing 17-6 on the road at Washington State. Beware some Pac-12 teams today playing on the road. Oregon at Washington State. Later tonight, Southern Cal on the road at Oregon State, which is undefeated. If you don't believe me, look it up. Ole Miss beating Tulsa 21-14. Georgia Tech was winning for a while against Central Florida, which was surprising. Central Florida has come back to take a 13-7 lead coming up on halftime in that one. Central Florida, a 3-touchdown favorite over Georgia Tech. Could Jeff Collins get fired? It's possible. It's possible. Did anybody watch the Auburn-Missouri game? And if you did you live through it? Because if you did, you're lucky you didn't get bored to death. I'm being dead serious. Michigan hangs on to beat Maryland 34-27. That game was close in the first half. Looked like Michigan was going to pull away some in the second half. Maryland comes back, ends up being a really good game. Michigan does get the win at home, though. Remains undefeated, beating Pineapple Jr. And the Maryland Turtles 34-27. Talked about Clemson and Wake Forest. Penn State all over Central Michigan, 33-14 earlier today. Baylor hangs on and wins on the road at Iowa State, which is no small task. There's somebody running around on YouTube saying Iowa State's never lost a home game. I can't remember that lady's name, but Anyway, this was a must-win game for Baylor. Baylor won the Big 12 last year, probably a win away from making the playoff. Kind of has that as a long-distance goal for this year, I think, Baylor. They've already lost the one game early in the year on the road at BYU. They can't lose again. Baylor loses another game. I don't care if they run the table and win the Big 12. I don't see a two-loss Big 12 team making a playoff. So technically, Baylor's playoff hopes, I think, still alive, depending on what happens in the other conferences. And they, of course, got to win out. But they went on the road today at Iowa State, 31-24. Pitt with another big win. Auburn and Missouri. This was one of the worst played football games I've ever seen, ever. I had this game on in the first half. Auburn jumped out to a 14-0 lead early. And I said, well, this is going to be a blowout. I turned it off and put a different game on. And I started seeing all these comments. Oh, my God, you got to check out the Auburn-Mizzou game. I turned it back. Start of the third quarter, it was 14-14. No offense wanted to score, do anything. This Auburn and Mizzou's offense is just absolutely horrible. And they're missing extra points. The overtime was a complete disaster. Missouri's fumbling the ball through the back of the end zone, giving Auburn the win. It was just the craziest damn worst played game I've ever seen. But shout out to Auburn for beating Missouri 17-14. I guess Brian Harsin gets to keep his job for another week. But we all know he's a dead man walking. He will not be the coach there next year. Mississippi State rebounds after last week's loss to LSU. They win big over Bowling Green, 45-14. Great game, TCU and SMU. TCU ends up winning 42-34. Great. What about Kansas and Duke? Here's another one. It looked like Kansas was going to run away with this thing. Duke would not roll over and die. They come back. Final score ends up being 35-27. Kansas remains undefeated. Now 4-0. The first time Kansas has won more than 3 games in a season since 2009. That's what I heard this morning. Is that true? Let me know. Down below. Kansas, a remarkable 4-0 and should be ranked in every single poll coming out this week. We'll see if they are. Louisville, a big win, 41-3. UCLA, 45-17 over Colorado. Great day of college football. Great games on now. Tennessee and Florida, a good game. Florida is playing better than I thought they would play. I even want to give Anthony Richardson some credit. He's avoided the sort of catastrophic play that it seems to plague him week in and week out with the turnover deals. He's played okay. He's made some good throws. He's obviously made some great runs. Hendon Hooker, as well, has made some great runs in this game. We all know about Hendon Hooker throwing the ball, so maybe not a surprise that Tennessee's doing good there. But the leading rusher for each of these two teams is the quarterback. Anthony Richardson is the leading rusher on Florida by a mile. Hendon Hooker, the leading rusher on Tennessee, by a mile. The Sunbelt Billy has made some questionable decisions in the first half of this game. One of the first drives Florida have, they get down to like the 15 or 20 yard line. Guaranteed field goal. Nope. They go for it on 4th down, don't get it, come away with 0 points. The next drive, they get down to like the 40. Don't go for it on 4th down. Decide to kick like a 50-yard field goal and miss it. It's just a weird. I don't understand. You're not kicking a guaranteed field goal on the 20-yard line, but then you're attempting a 50-yard field goal 5 minutes later. Boneheaded decisions. Sunbelt Billy has gone for it on 4th down 3 or 4 times in this game, and how many times it's worked and how many times it hasn't worked is not the point. It's where he's at on the field. It's the score of the game. It's the circumstances at the time. He's making boneheaded coaching decisions. Sunbelt Billy is. The only thing, and this shouldn't surprise us, I guess, the only thing keeping Florida in this game right now, Anthony Richardson's running ability. And I want to give Anthony Richardson some credit, too, because he's made some good passes today. I've been very hard on Anthony Richardson because honestly I feel like he's deserved it. He hasn't played well this year. Everybody knows all the stats heading into this week. No touchdown passes, multiple turnovers, interceptions. He's avoided that, and he's looked decent so far today. And it looked like Florida was going to take a lead into halftime, but Tennessee scored there at the end of the second quarter. They're up 17-14 now at halftime, and Tennessee gets the ball to start the second half. So we'll see what happens. The crowd is going nuts there in Knoxville. They did the whole checker the stadium deal. Crowd going insane. Neither one of these teams can run the ball. My God. You watch these teams hand the ball off, and it's just, they're going in reverse. Outside of the 2 quarterbacks, nobody on these teams can run the ball. We'll see what happens in the second half. It's setting up to be a pretty good game. Got some great games coming up tonight, too. I'll be uploading all kinds of reaction videos throughout the rest of the day today. I'm live streaming on Patreon right now if you want to come hang out and watch the second half of this Florida-Tennessee game and all the afternoon games. come on over to the Patreon page, and I'll see you over there. Have a good morning.